I actually haven't seen either of these players go at it since that moment that you talked about, which I forgot about it until you said, because Stephano was so far ahead that game. It actually didn't look losable at all. You're totally right. And I don't know how Mark did it. Like, I think it was a combination of both, right? Like, it took two to tango. It took Stephano throwing as hard as possible and Mark playing out of his mind.
Yeah, it wasn't just that Stephano had a better army, but the entire map was covered in creep. Stephano was rich, the uThermal was broke, Stephano's army was better, he had more of it. Every single department in which you could be ahead of in a game of StarCraft 2, Stephano had checked. And for some reason, a bunch of Marines and medevacs were able to win the game. I think a couple of atrocious fights near planetary fortresses did help, but yeah, that was an absolute cracker, so... I'm just going to sit for it, Ben, and I hope we get entertained. uThermal, I feel like, has always fun TVZ, and I do think he's not afraid to play the later stages, but every now and then, he also just kind of snaps, and then he does a couple of over-aggressive builds, and I don't know if I would really like that, because if Stephano might be a greedy player, but if there's one thing that he never skips out on, it's building queens.
Definitely. This man loves queens more than anybody almost. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like, uThermal definitely went through this phase where he would pretty much do like a Marine tank all in, and as soon as he saw it ultra, he'd GG. And it was like, Mark, you can't keep doing this. But I think he's solidified himself quite a lot. And now we're seeing a lot of variations in his openings. At this game, he went for an SV scout just to make sure he wasn't getting cheesed or anything. So definitely respectful play by him. Ooh, this drone. Oh, nice save by Stephano.
Yeah, excellent save. Like, losing a Zergling, that may sting, but it's not that big of a deal. And even losing 2 Zerglings is not that bad, but you just don't want to be building any drones after already producing 4 Zerglings. I know it's hard sometimes for everybody at home to really keep track of what are you watching, how important is this match, but this is a match of Group D. Oh, that Creep Tower gets picked off. Well done by uThermal. And a win here is very important for both players, not just because they get 125 euros and they would increase their record to 3 wins and 1 loss, but Zero is also in this group. And if making top 2 is the goal, you kind of know that one of those slots is pretty much taken by Jonas Satala. So there is only one other slot available in this group, and that's why every series is so damn important for these guys.
That's a good point you make. And again, these guys, like, this group is pretty tough. Like, Rail seemingly overperforming with his victory over Drogo, and I think he sat around 3rd place. That also makes it a little... In fact, he's 2nd place here, which is awesome to see for him. In fact, is this group up to date? Because I know Stephano lost against Drogo, right?
That is correct. So the group is up to date. It's just the graphic is not up to date, but yes.
Exactly. So it's very tight in that midfield area. Like, and you know, with Soul on your tails, and he's especially a good TVZ and TVT player for both these guys to go up against.
A lot of damage on these Hellions, but another Creep Tower does get picked off, so that's the 2nd one already. Wow, gets another one, but the hell is that? Okay, it wasn't a surround, but it was kind of a surround because the alien was like, "No, I will refuse to make a U-turn. I can go through these Zerglings." And if this was a red alert, you could probably drive over them, but that's not how it works. 2nd alien gets picked off as well, so even though uThermal had a lot of success slowing down the creep, that's still 2 Hellions and the Reaper now as well that he already lost.
Definitely a really good start for Stephano, and I see that he's actually producing Spore Crawlers here already, and given that it's a Banshee on the production tab, like, Stephano looks like he's in good shape, and his queen count, it's at 6 right now. He's getting his lair up and running, and taking out 2 Hellions and the Reaper, it means that these Hellions can't really poke, because, I mean, that's damage that you're not going to get back. When you have the Reaper in it, at least it regens when you actually poke against the queens. So this is definitely a rough start for uThermal.
Yeah, and even though uThermal was doing a good job in containing the creep, I still feel it's inevitable that Stephano will find that moment of 30-40 seconds where the queens will just push everything away. Now, that Spore Crawler is going to move, which means it's obviously not going to detect this Cloak Banshee. Rather unfortunate timing and a bit unnecessary, I'd say. Now he's going to move it again. This is not the cleanest defense against the Cloak Banshee at all, man.
That was one of those moments where it's like, okay, I'm going to put it in the Liberator position. And the Banshee turn, it's like, gosh darn it, like, just as I did that, of course that happens. Oh, Stephano, he's opting for that Roach Warren, Kevin. Like, very often I would say Stephano, I don't want to say predictable, but I think he tends to like those compositions where he doesn't have to be like, he doesn't tend to go for the super all-ins or anything, right? And we got to see him against Milky Cow. He went for that big 1-1 roach timing. I know he's a big lover of the lurkers and stuff, but definitely showing some versatility in his unit compositions.
uThermal has not spotted any of those Evo chambers yet, or the Roach Warren, so I'm not sure if he's expecting this or not. What we do know is that the Cloak Banshees are showing up one more time, and they're going to pick up a few more drone kills. So even though the Hellions really did not work out for uThermal this game, the Banshees, they've been pretty successful so far, already grabbing 7 drone kills.
Certainly have. And the creep tuners as well. They've been getting very well shut down by uThermal. Like this creep, even though, you know, Stephano's creep spread these days is actually ridiculously good, uThermal's kept it at bay as much as he can. And there we go. We do have the updated graphics. So Stephano currently sitting at rank 2 in this group. uThermal out of the qualifying position, despite having a 2-1 record, it is ridiculously close in that midfield.
Yep, once again, just shows how important this best of 3 is between these two. Stephano's setting up a little Zergling counterattack, while uThermal is just kind of trying to push back the creep. He's going to try his luck one more time with the Cloak Banshee. Stephano is already aware of it. I guess the Overlord gave the heads up there. I feel like he still hasn't seen a Roach.
He hasn't seen anything, which is the scary part, but he's actually making tanks, which is a really, really good move against the Roaches. Stephano, it doesn't look like it looks like he's definitely, nice. Takes out both Banshees, and both those Banshees would have been so good against a Roach all-in, right?
Yes, that is actually so big, man. I didn't even think about it, but obviously Roaches don't shoot up. So that would have been so nice to just have 2 Banshees. Even if they're down to like 10 HP, who cares? They should never die. Now all of a sudden uThermal immediately throws up a couple of bunkers. Now Marine Tank is still pretty amazing against Roaches, but I guess it really all comes down to the engagement and how many tanks will actually be able to participate in the battle.
Yeah, and the 1-1 has just finished for Stephano, so he's using his time to go in there. The tanks, they are positioned to defend the 3rd base, but they're all firing here with a really good meat shield of all these Marines, all these SCVs as well, and I think uThermal's doing a damn good job defending this and being very ballsy with his Marines too.
Yep, no, that was just excellent. I mean, Combat Shield wasn't even done yet, but this wasn't the prettiest engagement by Stephano, but perhaps that is all because of uThermal's brilliant tank positioning, right? Made it seem that one of these tanks was somewhat vulnerable, and it's like, yeah, if you just take out this tank, then you can actually run into my natural, but then there were 3 more tanks ready to protect the tank. They got massive shots off, and that gave the Marines the confidence to actually just stim forward and get right on top of those Roaches and Ravages. And then, that is like, you don't want to call it an all-in, right? Because, yeah, we see an infestation here. There is a 4th base on location as well. But that is a very committed attack by the Zerg player. And it really didn't get anything done at all.
Super committed. Like, the Zerg wants to be way ahead in, like, economy or, you know, being on the map, being aggressive, being, like, having a vastly superior drone count to SCVs. But he's got none of that. And we're actually seeing Stephano go for Burrow and Tunneling Claws as well, of all things, which is super duper weird. It could catch the Terran off guard. We do see that uThermal's adding on the 6th to 8th barracks here, not going for the 4th CC. It looks like he's going for like that 3 base swarm host of all things, Kevin. This is proper balmy.
Yes, I mean, this is going to be a wild game, but uThermal is already preparing for those Roaches with Tunneling Claws, because we've seen multiple missile turrets go up. There's a sensor tower now as well to perhaps keep track of swarm hosts or Roaches. I really think that for uThermal, this is not a very complicated game at this point. Let those upgrades finish up, fire up 3-3, and just keep building Marine Tank, right? It's literally fantastic against everything that Stephano has and is building at the moment.
Yeah, Stephano's creep spread is really good. Like, it's starting to advance past the halfway point, and now he's opening up the rocks to make it easier for him to move. The thing is, his swarm hosts, they are like one of the least sufficient or least supply efficient units in the game, and against Bio of all things, yeah, Marines shut them down really damn hard. So I'm curious about what the players here. Oh, okay. So obviously the Tunneling Claws, but and I know that we often fault players for doing something a bit crazy, but after his push failed, he was definitely behind. Oh, going for the cheeky tank kills here.
Yeah, gets one tank, but he's losing 7 or 8 roaches in the process. There is a double drop in the third. I really think that Stephano doesn't have much of a shot here, man. I know he's maxed out, and then you're never supposed to counter player out, but the army of uThermal is so much better. Stephano is going to need the absolute best fight possible with the Locust. Maybe get some friendly fire from those tanks on the Marines, but there is so much firepower in this Terran army, and there simply isn't that much on the side of the Zerg.
I bet uThermal's like, what the hell? Like, where did these Locusts come from? And he got a grand total of 1 tanks with how many? That was 13 swarm hosts worth of Locusts. I mean, that isn't the trade that Stephano was looking for. And I mean, Mad Mark, he was looking at the army being like, okay, what have you got with this? Is it going to be Infestus? Is it going to be Ultras? What is it going to be? And I think Swarm Host is the one thing that he's actually totally okay with playing against.
Yeah, he's like, well, I already have 80 Marines. Why don't I just make a few more? Because they seem really good. Steaming forward now as well, chasing down a couple of these Swarmos. Locusts are ready, but actually they're now activated very far away. Stephano even sending his Locust in the wrong direction, Ben. As I guess he's focused on this fight, and the Roaches and Ravagers are trying to do whatever they can. And they do get some sort of a cleanup in the end. With the amount of economic damage that Stephano has already taken, that's simply not good enough.
So Stephano's like, you know what? The Swarm Host didn't work out that well. I'm going to go into Lurkers. I do like the Lurker choice because uThermal's army, it was very Marine heavy, you know, very clumpy. In fact, what are his extra barracks? Are they all reactors here? This is, in fact, he's got like 2 tech labs and the rest are reactors. So a lot of Marines will be produced and continue to be produced by uThermal. But Stephano's got his work cut out for him. Even though he's got a pretty darn big bank of minerals, it's not the position that Zerg wants to be in.
No, I mean, he doesn't have a very good drone count at all. And on top of that, I think his army is also absolutely terrible in dealing with drops. It's inevitable that I think you will take a lot of damage from these medevacs with those Marines. Even though with 12 Hydras on the way, perhaps it gets a bit easier. We do have a lot of Locusts landing here, and a few Marines will bite the dust, but it's obviously not really... I almost would have liked to see him send it into the main base, man. Just snipe a couple of those reactors and stuff.
I would have much preferred that. Like, you know, those units, or rather the buildings, can't run away from the Locusts, which means that they're inevitably going to die or they have to lift up and it halts production and stuff. But yeah, when it comes to fighting the Bio army, Locusts are pretty useless, Kevin. And we're going to have another power spike for uThermal here because 3-3 is soon to be hit, and he's maxed out again with this very, very scary Terran army.
Yep, and these Hydras, they really don't have any upgrades yet. They did just get Hydra speed, but they don't even have their range upgrade yet. There is a triple drop heading into the third, but Stephano did leave quite a few roaches behind. I mean, uThermal sizing up the main army. He's like, wait a minute, I can just fight that. So he's stimming forward. We do have the Locust trying to engage this orbital command one more time, but all that the Locusts are really killing at this point is a couple of supply depots, and that is simply not enough. Look at the firepower in all these Marines, man.
And like, does this reveal the 5th base of Stephano? In fact, uThermal's going to find it anyway, so try to deal some counter damage, but good lift off by uThermal. He is supply blocked at 172, given that the Locust did actually kill some depots, but that's about the most useful thing they did this game thus far.
I like
that ain't saying much, is it? That ain't saying much.
uThermal's going full Marine King Prime on us. It's like, so Marine's pretty good, right? Like, can I just keep building Marines? Well, yeah. If there are no Lurkers, if there are no Infestus, why would you really stop? No Banings to worry about either. All the Marines are going to steam forward. Stephano is going to get a decent engagement here, coming in from multiple angles. Can the Locust finally get something done? Since they're landing on the Marines, I would say it's questionable. No, the Marine count is dwindling, but it's obviously not a good fight for Stephano.
Not a good fight at all. I mean, the Locust, they barely got anything done this game, and Stephano, all they can do is produce roaches. Like, he's outgunned here with everything. He's got a worse economy. He's down to 48 drones. His army gets absolutely shredded by the tanks and the Marines. uThermal just played a really good game here.
Yep, uThermal simply made better units than Stephano made. That roach attack, like, it always sucks a bit when we're like, oh, that's an all-in when it's 4 bases and 60+ drones, but in a way, it is an all-in. Like, unless you get X amount of damage done, if you don't get that done, you're kind of dead, unless weird things happen. Well, in this game, weird things didn't happen. uThermal's is like, all right, you're going to keep building roaches from here on out. I'll keep building Marines. My army is better than your army. Stephano is trying to make this game scrappy right now, and you can maybe like chip away at the work account of uThermal, but uThermal is sitting pretty, man. It's still 61 SCVs, which is more than enough, or compared to what Stephano's working with.
There's almost like a mini game of whack-a-mole going on here with like the hatcheries. uThermal's just kind of bouncing around, taking them out from side to side, but he doesn't really have to transition out of what he's done here. The bio's very strong. He does see the lurkers now, and lurkers, yeah, they are miracle workers, and they can do stuff at the best of times, but this is the worst of times, and what can they actually get done? Because Stephano right now, he cannot actually secure a fourth base whatsoever.
Well, Tank's doing a little bit of friendly fire there on the Marines as the Locust did land on top of them. The Lurkers are going to try to flank the tanks, but that is not going to work out. GG gets called. uThermal gets a pretty convincing 1-0 lead in this best of 3. I really think it all comes down to the first big 1-1 roach attack. Like, we can talk about everything that happened afterwards, but it's one of those scenarios where I feel every decision that Stephano makes here is the wrong one. Yeah. So then we can pinpoint that, but I don't think it's about the Swarmos. It's that first attack. And I gotta say, after he killed both Banshees, I generally thought it was going to be a bit more difficult for uThermal to survive there and just not take any economic damage at all. Like, what did uThermal lose? 5 Marines and a tank? That was it?
It definitely wasn't a lot. Like, he kind of baited the army to fight closer to the tanks, right? Like, if Stephano was more to the left side of that, it'd have been less in the tank fire. But it also felt like Stephano was getting a bit supply block leading up to that. I saw a supply at like 146 out of 146, then 154 out of 54. And normally when you go for that big all-in, you have a massive supply advantage, whereas uThermal was like maybe 30 supply behind, equal upgrade kind of thing. So I think uThermal, his macro was obviously very, very on point. And maybe Stephano, like those initial Banshee shots and moving the spores about, maybe losing the 10 or so drones actually was enough to just kind of throw the whole timing attack off.
Yeah, and once again, I think the defensive posturing by uThermal was beautiful. Oh, yeah. Because it felt like that one tank is like, oh yeah, you should absolutely run forward and drop a couple of crosser balls on that tank. But then all the other tanks popped up, and all of a sudden it wasn't 1 or 2 defensive tanks. No, there were 4 tanks already there. Losing one of them. I mean, as soon as that first tank went down, Stephano's like, wait a minute, I'm taking way too many tank shots here. I gotta retreat. We saw the Marines actually stimming forward. That's crazy, because normally it's the Zerg player that's throwing everything what they have at the Terran, and then Terran players are running into bunkers. Maybe you temporarily pulling the SCVs, right, trying to keep your Marines safe. The Marines were actually stimming forward, even without combat shield, and I think that kind of said enough on how confident uThermal already was in that phase.
I love how friendly these guys are with each other, you know, like Stephano says, well played, boy, and uThermal's like, thanks, master, and Stephano's just asking like, oh, did you scout it? And he's like, yeah, I saw the roach warren in the net. And Stephano's like, well, crap, you know, like, you know, so nice friendly banter between these players, and just like a genuine bit of respect, because, I mean, these guys, they've known each other for a long, long, long time, and all as players, we do know Stephano was an absolute god in Wings of Liberty. And the thing is, we still respect him a lot, because no matter what happens, he is still pretty damn good at StarCraft 2. I know a lot of people like to give him a lot of shit, but, you know, he can beat anybody if he's having a real good day of it.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. In the bottom right side, we're looking at the main base of the Dutch Terran player, who has now taken a 1-0 lead for himself. Of course, representing Team Liquid, it is uThermal.
And playing in the top left side, over Manta side, as the Red Zerg, playing for Team Gamers Origin, it is Stephano. I guess that, yeah, I mean, it is a big deal that, uThermal scouted it, and then he did set himself up to beautifully counter any sort of attack. And the tank positioning there, I talked about how it's kind of difficult to defend, because you have this massive, like, concave available on the third base. So a lot of people try to go for the natural instead, but uThermal, he predicted it all absolutely beautifully. And Banshees, they're a little bit out of the meta right now in this matchup, but uThermal just, he made them work, like, super duper well.
Looking back at that game, I truly wish that Stephano maybe would have dropped a Nidus in the back of his main base as well, because nothing really entered the back of the main forever, right? Because the Hellions were always kind of in the center, just battling with those queens over the creep. The Banshees were really only flying into the third, and eventually the natural to get a couple of kills there before they died. But imagine if all those roaches pop out in the main and get on top of the production. Then the tanks are out of position, and I think it would have been a completely different game.
Definitely could have been, definitely could have been. Whenever you go for like a bit of a roach bust, I know the map is good for it. It's like doing the same thing on Submarine or something. But yeah, I don't feel that the Roach Bust is Stephano's kind of style. I feel it's lots of Ling Bane absolutely everywhere and getting to the late game, you know, like we've all watched his stream. There's been countless hours of it where he likes to play those long macro games. He's super damn good at them. And I think that's one thing where uThermal's obviously got really sick control, and he's very good at these bio tank armies. But when the game starts to get a bit more finessey, and you have like Vipers in the mix, Lurkers in the mix, it's very hard to beat that kind of army.
No, I'm with you. I definitely prefer watching Stephano play some good old Ling Bane and then, you know, 11, 12 queens out on the map. You know, couple at home to inject, and all the others are dropping creep tumors non-stop. We can see him rush up to 5, 6 hatcheries and just run around with a ridiculous amount of Lings and Banes. And I feel like that's way more up his alley than those Roach attacks.
Okay, so uThermal, he has been very diligent about scouting with an SCV in this series, which just shows that he's kind of respecting the fact that, you know, pool first and whatever you are available in this matchup, while they're rare, it's just nice to keep your opponent honest. But this game he went for Reactor instead of a Reaper first, which is totally the normal. And he's gone for a lot of Marines very quickly. So we're on 4 Marines. He's getting 2 aliens at a time, continuing the Marine production. This is one of those builds that he's had in his YouTube tutorials for a little bit now, which is very cool. We'll most likely have like a Marine drop in the main and then 6 Hellions or so in another spot. It's just another twist on the TVZ openings.
Yeah, I like that Mark comes up with these weird openings every now and then. He had that 16 Marine drop on Golden Wall and then turning it into mech afterwards. And I actually really enjoyed that build. First few times I saw it, I was like, what? This is so cool. And a lot of Zergs had absolutely no idea what was hitting them. They're like, okay, that's a lot of Marines early on, you know, and they start getting ready for a proper bio game. It's like, wait, it's like 6.5 minutes into the game, you're playing mech, and it happened to some of the best Zergs out there.
Yeah, and like Stephano, he's not scouted anything thus far, and it really messes with the normal scout timings of the big overlords. So he's going to fly into the main, and he's going to be like, okay, is there a fusion core? Is it Cloak Banshee again? It's none of those things. It's uThermal's own build that he likes to do. So yeah, he's going to know about this super duper late as well, and whether he's going to be prepared or not, it's another story.
Well, there are 10 Zerglings on the way, and there are 3 more Queens in production as well, but I also saw a drone being produced, and if I was Stephano, I really would take this a little more serious, because obviously at this point uThermal doesn't have that many SCVs, so he is truly relying on getting some damage done. I do like the fact that a couple of Zerglings are already in position in the main base to potentially receive this medevac and give these Marines a warm welcome to the Zerg main base. I think so far so good for Stephano.
Yeah, he's holding this really well. I mean, he's getting a bit supply block. The Hellions are joining the fray, and this might be a 2-pack punch. If Marines do get behind the third, like on the high ground, it could be really gnarly. Nice Marine micro by uThermal, but again, very good shutdowns by Stephano. He's feeling confident enough to start up his 1-1, also making a lot of drones all at once. And these are all really clutch decisions by him, because he's only got 11 Lings, and he's against 6 Hellions and 6 Marines and a medevac on the map. Very ballsy.
He's got 8 Queens, and that's kind of what he believes in at this point, that that is going to be enough. And I think he's right, Ben. He's getting away with all of it. We saw him producing a lot of Overlords as well. Wants to make sure he's not supply blocked. As I think he just misclicked there and killed one of his own creep tumors, but that happens to the best of us.
Happens to the best of us, Kevin. You know, some of us have killed our own command centers and stuff in very important games. So creep tumor, it's nothing.
And some of us Protoss players F2 our own Novas into our armies. So you know what? A Queen killing a creep tumor, you won't hear me about it.
This creep spread is going to, like, from this amount of Queens, it's going to get out of control pretty damn quick. And, you know, like, years and years ago, we used to talk about, like, certain Zergs having really good creep spread. Now it seems like all of them can do it very well, but Stephano's creep spread is actually meticulous if it gets going. By the way, he's got a supreme bank to work with here. Like, his drone count isn't super high, but his minerals are.
Maybe that's because the Queens have been a bit too busy trying to fight these Hellions and trying to get creep out rather than focusing on injecting, because this is obviously not normal. I'd like to see him just build 2 hatcheries now at once. There's no reason for him not to take the hatchery on the bottom side of his natural, I feel. Instead, he's going to take the one near the rich Vespian gas. I'm kind of happy to see it, but this hatchery could be in a bit of trouble because there is still enough firepower to get a cancel on this hatch. And this is actually starting to look a bit ugly right now for Stephano, Ben, because he had such a clean defense, but he's truly struggling in getting these hatcheries down at this point.
Yeah, he really is. And his minerals, they've been like kind of skirting around the 1K mark for some time now. And I like the fact that he's now throwing down quite a few hatcheries. But yeah, take that one down to below your natural. That seems to be the safest one. You got that veil of safety with the creep already there. And the drone count as well. This is one thing that I'm super scared for him. Look at it, it's 53.
Well, it's been at 53 forever, but I think it's just because he already had proper saturation on his other 3 bases. So he's like, you know what, I'm going to build hatcheries and make a couple units, and then I will get my drones out again. At least these aliens do finally get trapped. Let's take a look at the 3rd base of uThermal, because there is a tank there, Ben. But that tank is not sieged up, and there's a lot of Zerglings and a couple of Banelings at the bottom. So Stephano is going to try to blow up those depots, but uThermal is sieging it up right now. And I actually don't even want to see Stephano try anymore, because that's just not going to go well.
No. Like, depending on how much he really wants to throw at it, but uThermal, he's being very careful, right? Like, if he moves out, if he gets a bit crazy, which maybe these Zerglings might be the go-ahead for Stephano, but he's leaving so much at home as well. I don't think this is the right call, but Stephano is trying to take multiple bases here. Okay, not bad, not bad so far, but should he stick around here? I'm not sure.
I mean, getting a couple of depots and 1 tank, I really don't think that's worth it. Those Banelings would be a lot more useful, perhaps, in fighting the main army down the line. uThermal really didn't take a lot of damage there. He's going to stim forward, going to push the creep back even further. I really don't understand why Stephano hates that expand below his natural so much. I feel like that one could have been up and running for a long time. He could have had that base fully saturated, and then he could always take the base at 12 o'clock. And if he feels that the one in the center is too hard to defend against tanks, like, you can always sacrifice it down the line, right? Because then you probably have the base near the rich Vespian gas as well. I really feel that was a big missed opportunity, and Stephano's in all sorts of trouble, if you ask me.
Yeah, like the one thing that's been the scariest for me is the fact that his drone count was lower than the Terran for quite some time, despite nothing really happening. And, you know, we've got to give a bit of credit to uThermal. This build wasn't scouted for a long time, and maybe it did throw off Stephano more than he'd actually like to admit. Stephano has hit tier 3 now, though, and he has started his Ultralisk Cavern. 2-2 is going to be finished significantly earlier than the Terran as well.
Those Banelings are not going to finish, though, so that means that, well, Stephano's going to lose a few more resources, and B, he's going to have to deal with it with the amount of Banelings he had out on the map. But that's 23, so that's actually kind of fine. I just feel that if uThermal really starts applying serious pressure at this point, with his 2-2 upgrades finishing up as well, I like his army so much better than I like Stephano's army. And Stephano is obviously trying to get ultras out, but it takes a while before they have chitinous and everything. I want to see uThermal just go right now, and then I don't know how Stephano would be able to deal with it.
No, I also hope that Stephano starts adrenal glands, you know, because he has gone for a pure Ling Bane composition. But the Widowmines, they're getting into the high numbers now. He's got 3 more on the way, 3 producing at a time, and he's up to 11 very soon. And Ling Baneling doesn't trade too well, if microed correctly, against Widowmines.
Like, obviously, uThermal doesn't have the same vision as we do, so he could be, you know, thinking that Stephano was actually very rich in this game and maybe has a ridiculous amount of Lings and Banes out on the map. And I mean, the Ling count is high. It's 116 Lings at this point. Oh no, the Queens! What are the Queens doing here, Ben? They have been misclicked. That is 5 Queens with a lot of energy just kind of marching into their own death. Those Queens are important because when the Ultras come out, that's the way you keep them alive a bit longer before all their upgrades finish up.
Yeah, it definitely would be. And look at uThermal here trying to bait the Widowmine, or rather the units, into the Widowmines. Run by does deal a little bit of damage, but uThermal was more than prepared. He had the wall rebuilt, he had the bunker and the tank up again. So Stephano, he's falling behind in supply here, and he's waiting for those Ultras to get out in the field, because then he has a bit of a chance. But uThermal, he's putting on the pressure. He's doing exactly what you wanted him to do, Kev.
Yep, Stephano's going to try to get his hatchery alive, and he will succeed in doing so. There's still a lot of mines here, though, so he has to be very careful. He wants to go off creep. He's incredibly worried because Stephano was still floating a lot of money. He's going to try his luck one more time with a Baneling run by at the bottom. At the same time, he's going to try to collapse on his main army, but there are so many Widowmines here. That could have gone a lot worse.
That was a 4GG moment there. The Widowmines actually killed 2 of the medevacs with units in, and the run-by is now dealing damage. Stephano, he's about to hit 3-3 as well, which will be a nice upgrade advantage for him. And finally, he's actually dealing damage to uThermal. uThermal crumbling here under the pressure, it looks like.
Well, just casually blowing up the planetary fortress as well, getting a cancel on this one on the right side. And with the Ultras out on the battlefield, this definitely does become a completely different game. I saw that the Widowmines didn't get the sickest shots of it. I didn't actually see it kill Metavax. So that's a real classic, a double CS classic. We do have a Widowmine drop on the other side of the map, getting a couple decent shots there. And this is nice for uThermal, because now he's buying more time for himself to get a new proper army out.
Buying time and, more importantly, just slowing down the economy, right? Stephano, he's getting the drone count back up, producing 11 at a time, and getting like 80 plus is definitely the magic number. uThermal, he's getting 3-3 on the way again, which is actually a really big deal. These Widowmines, nice and juicy shots. This is the kind of stuff that uThermal needs to do to get kind of back in here.
Oh, pole position being used by Stephano on the right side, and that means that all those links are just kind of chilling while these Marines are picking them off one by one. The Ultra count is looking pretty good, though. It's 8 Ultras, but I mean, I just think back of that game they had back then. 8 Ultras didn't get the job done on Everdream Band, so I don't know if it's going to get the job done here in a much more even game.
Even though Stephano in the last minute or so has managed to get himself like a bit of a lead here, I am still scared for him because, yeah, that Everdream game, that is one that I will never forget. And it does feel like uThermal's been playing a little bit cleaner this game. I mean, the whole position lings is one thing, but yeah, I still, like, Stephano isn't out of the woods yet.
Stephano's gonna try his luck one more time. This is like the fourth time he's gonna blow up a couple of depots here, and I guess the safety bunker has been taken out. So uThermal is actually gonna have to deal with this with just a couple of bio units, but there are enough reinforcements, I think, to deal with these Zerglings. Beautiful positioning on the bio there. I really love that. The little choke point between the refinery and the top mineral patch. Well done.
Yeah, still getting a little bit of damage with those lings, though. That is nice. And Stephano's bank is accumulating behind this. He actually teched into a Spire as well. So I wonder what the choice is there, whether it's Broodlords or just getting some Corruptors to finally deal with these Medevacs without using uThermal's own Widowmines against him.
I mean, uThermal losing 12 SCVs there to that run by. I'm with you. That's way more than I expected him to get. I guess you can never really underestimate 3-3 Zerglings with Adrenal Glands as well. Because now all of a sudden the Dutch Terran's only at 50 SCVs, Ben. Now he is maxed out, so that obviously means he's going to get a big army. And these Liberators are going to be very annoying to deal with. Because what's the NTR we really have out on the map right now? It's 4 Queens. That's about it.
That is about it. And skivvying from each base to each base. In fact, these Liberators, even though they started off good, they're kind of stuck on an Overlord here, and both going to fall to a red health. One does fall here. Is this army going to get cleaned up by the Banelings? Oh, nice connections here. Stephano's doing a decent job of just kind of making life difficult for uThermal, and he's going to shut down this 5th base as well, while run buying into the natural, but uThermal has a massive bio army.
Yep. I mean, that's a lot of Banelings as well, though, on the right side. More SCVs falling. Man, that SCV count is becoming critical at this point, as uThermal is about to drop into the 30s, and that's definitely not a place he wants to be. He is going to try to return the favor and pick off at least one hatchery, and that's the hatchery with the rich Vespian gas as well, so it's a very juicy pickup. And eventually, these Marines and Marauders are going to have to be forced to evacuate. But Liberator is getting a couple of nice shots off as well. This game feels really well. Stephano has money in the bank, but it's not enough to take like a very bad fight off creep, because then we know that Terran players can absolutely still just march to the other side of the map and win.
Stephano is finally taking that base that we talked about, Kevin. Maybe the safest base that he could have taken. Even though the creep spread isn't super wild, nice positioning by uThermal dealing with these run-bys, but this is starting to feel reminiscent of the game that they had on Everdream. Like, this is very similar positions. uThermal's army is massive. His worker count is terrible, and Stephano, he's kind of getting himself into a really, really good position here. His army isn't super duper high tech. You know, there's no spellcasters here available, but it is very, very strong if on creep. Oh, nice Widowmine.
That's a beautiful shot. In Stephano's defense, he did try to take that hatchery before, but it got cancelled by a double drop. Banelings will blow up the planetary here on the right side, but at the same time, uThermal is going to try to get a second cancel on the hatchery we really wanted Stephano to take. This time it seems like it's not going to get cancelled, but Ben, uThermal's army, 144 army supply, a lot of Marines, a lot of Marauders. That one hatchery on the top side is actually still a bit low on HP from some of the previous fights they had there, so Stephano, in a way, is now a 3-base Zerg. That's so weird to say, but he is a 3-base Zerg.
He just didn't expand a lot, right? And he threw away a lot of Banelings blowing up bases, which is all well and good because he kind of was ahead, but it felt like uThermal really launched that counterattack right there based on the fact that uThermal, or rather Stephano, threw away so many units. It's a dicey game. It's a dicey game.
Yeah, I felt that uThermal has been in the driver's seat for the majority of it. Just at one point it became a bit scary when all of a sudden he lost the planetary, he lost 30 SCVs, there were a lot of ultras out, but I don't know. Like, as long as Stephano doesn't increase the quality of his army, I feel it's impossible to close out this game. And if he doesn't close out the game, I just don't see him winning, right? Like, on creep, sure. You know, the Lynx, Banes, Corruptors, Ultras, I think they will demolish the army of uThermal. But off creep, running into mines near planetaries, I don't really see his lead being big enough to get a W there.
No, I'm scared for Stephano, because when he has a 16 Corruptor count and it's like there's 2 Liberators on the field, that might be a little bit of an overestimate, like an overreaction to that. I know they can take out the Widow Mines as well, but we'll see. We'll see how those Corruptors are used, because now it's like, okay, the Liberators are dead, and I've still got 16 Corruptors.
I mean, there are 12 medevacs, so like if you get a couple of medevac kills, that's nice, and obviously makes your life easy in dealing with drops. I love how uThermal just left a couple of Marauders in the front. Those Marauders were so tanky. All of them were being healed by the medevacs, and all of a sudden uThermal got a lot of kills and Zerglings and quite a bit of damage on one of those Ultras as well. Both hatcheries at once are going to get cancelled, so that's a double kill for uThermal. Stephano's lost 15 drones. He still has 79. But uThermal's army is so much bigger, and I would almost even say it's better.
Yeah, like, I feel that this army of Stephano, if it had like a couple of Infestors to land some Fungals, it could really spell trouble for uThermal, but he's going for Vipers. This definitely confuses me, because is it Vipers for Blinding Clouds to stop the damage? Yeah. Like, I'm really not sure. I really feel that Infestors would be the absolute perfect thing here.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like it would synchronize a bit better, but Blinding Cloud can be nice against Bio, right? It can really make things very awkward. Sometimes Marines and Marauders are like, all right, we're running forward into the Banelings head first, so it's better than no spellcasters, but I'm with you. I think I would have preferred Infestors as well.
Yeah, the one thing about the Blinding Cloud is you kind of rely on your opponent not microing that well, and if there's anything uThermal does do very well, it's his micros, his control, whereas the Fungal really kind of shuts that down a little bit, and whether it's Vipers for yoinking things in, maybe... I don't know if he's paying too much respect for the Liberators that aren't there, but uThermal making 4 CCs at once, and he is transitioning into Liberators as well as getting more and more Widow Mines and stuff.
We already have 5 orbitals on the map, and there's a good chance that it's going to be 6 or 7 in the near future. So uThermal is definitely very comfortable with the 51 SCVs that he has right now, because that means he's got 149 supply to just build Terran units with. And, well, that's going to give him a pretty good spot, as he's going to get another cancel. No, it's a straight-up kill. It's a cancel on the top hatchery, but it's a kill on the one near the Rich Vespian gas.
That was almost a deja vu moment. Like, we saw that exact same thing happen like 2 minutes prior. Okay, is Stephano, is he angry enough to actually engage with this army? It's a lot of medevacs which are going to get shut down. Actually, okay, so he's using the Vipers for Parasitic Bomb here, Kevin.
Well, that can be the only purpose, but I do think dropping 1 or 2 parasitic bombs is very nice, because the medevac count is super high. One of the Vipers did get targeted there. I mean, Stephano is really committing here off creep, and obviously the Banelings are getting a couple of decent shots. Corruptors are going to take care of the Liberators, but man, there are still a lot of bio units coming in from the bottom, and all these Corruptors, all of a sudden, they feel pretty useless.
They certainly do, but that bio army is also going to feel kind of like it's on the borrowed time here, because every stim really counts. Like, he's almost going to deal more damage to himself than Stephano's going to deal to him.
There's still a couple of Banelings left. If those Banelings can get good connections, this could maybe turn into a W for Stephano. All those Marines and Marauders are so low in HP, but in the end, they will survive, and only 1 Ultra will make its way home. On the other side of the map, at the bottom, Stephano did get a kill on one of these orbitals. A few more Banelings looking for good connections. This game is just getting really weird at this point.
These guys, it has to be said, they have really good matches. They aren't normal, they're scrappy, they're crazy. Who's going to win? I have no idea. We're 21 minutes in. How many workers are being killed? Like 47 and 44 apiece. They just like punching each other as hard as they can.
Stephano is once again trying to get those 2 hatcheries in the center top of the map, and I think this time he should actually have enough time to really get them up and running again. During all of this, he did even secure the bottom left, and uThermal has been so occupied in, like, you know, dealing with run-bys, focusing on the fights, that he doesn't even know there is a hatchery in the bottom left. This is the first time that he spots it, and he's like, oh, am I actually in trouble in this game? Like, I'm pretty sure I was winning it at one point. We are gonna get cancel number 7 on the Rich Vespine guest though.
And another one at the top as well. It really is Groundhog Day over here in a Dream Hack. Okay, Stephano's managing to land a lot of counter damage in this run by. This is a really scary one. Nice splits with those Zerglings. Does account for those 2 Widow Mines. And it does look like the third of uThermal is going to be shut down here pretty hard, even utilizing the Corrosive Bile as well on Corrosive Spray even on Corruptors.
The caustic spray, but yeah, we're getting there, man.
It's close, it's close.
I was about to go there. These Corruptors have actually been incredibly useful in picking off command centers. That's not really something I was thinking of. I was like, yeah, maybe they'll get 1. But they have killed like 4 in the last minute and a half of this game. Now they're right-clicking on Medevacs once again. uThermal is clearly struggling a little bit in keeping those Medevacs alive. There are a few Widow Mines here getting decent connections. But then, all of a sudden, we've lost 4 regular command centers. 3 orbital commands and 2 planetaries have gone down. Now the PF maybe went down to the Banelings, but these Corruptors and Links, they have seriously reduced the base count of uThermal.
They have, and they've also sniped every medevac on the map. Like, there's only 3 remaining at this point, and they just got made. So those Corruptors, I was kind of a little bit judgy at first, but they've been super damn good. Despite uThermal taking so much damage, he's done a damn good job of keeping in this, like, supply-wise. This is a nice drop as well. These Widow Mines getting real good damage in.
Yep, all of those units are very clumped up. We're getting another cancel at the center base. It has to be number 6. And that obviously means if we're going to cancel that base, man, we're going to cancel the base on the top side of the map as well. Yeah, okay. Now I actually feel like I'm going crazy.
Yeah, these guys must feel like they're in a time machine, like a time loop at this point. Like, what the hell is going on? Stephano, for the last few minutes, by the way, hasn't been mining any gas at all. Like, that number has been at 0 in the income tab, so it's been super weird to see. And he's finally run out of that gas bank that he seemingly had quite a ton of beforehand.
Isn't it funny that Stephano has won hundreds and thousands of dollars with Infestors and he refuses to make one right now?
Yeah, it's almost like he's trying to prove something, you know? But it's like, you don't need to prove anything anymore, Stephano.
No, nobody's complaining about the Infestor in the year 2020, but I really do feel like they would have been pretty useful. At least he has taken the Extractors right now in that bottom left base. uThermal actually has a pretty proper bio army again. How many Banelings are left, man? Only 12. We're getting another cancel. Of course we do. Man, if we were playing bingo, man, we would have both won the jackpot tonight.
Oh man, this is like one of those times you go to roulette, right? And it's like that number keeps on coming in. It's like, oh my goodness, why didn't I put any money on it? But uThermal for a long period of time just hasn't been mining the same amount that Stephano has. So, and this creep spread, even though I think Stephano's creep spread is usually very good, maybe this is a testament to how well uThermal's done of just cleaning it up, you know? Like, it's Stephano hasn't had that true veil of safety on the top side of the map at all.
I guess there is still that base at 6 o'clock that nobody has mined anything from, and I guess the base with the Rich Vespine guys on uThermal side of the map still has a lot of minerals to work with as well. But it's worth keeping in mind that obviously the original 3 bases of uThermal, yeah, there's nothing left there. It doesn't even make any sense to send a command center to that base. Like, why do you care about that base?
No, I mean, you shouldn't, right? I guess the big thing would be if you put a PF there just to stop these run-bys from happening. But uThermal is trading very well here. But there's a fight going on at the top as well, which... Oh, this is a lot of Ultras, a lot of Banes, a PF to run back to. They are just... This is a true slobber knocker.
Yeah, but now all of a sudden there are still 3 Ultras in the main base. uThermal actually down 47 army supply at this point. Are those? No, that's just Overseers morphing. uThermal is going to try to take on the main army of 3 because there aren't that many Banelings left here anymore. And that's fine, but we need to do something about these Ultras in the main base of uThermal because he's actually supply blocked and he's losing more and more production. The Corruptors are like, hey, we're still here. We can help out, right? Yes, you guys can.
I feel like the Corruptors have been also a mine clearer, like a minefield clearer, but like not in the right way, you know? They've just been taking all the shots here, there, and everywhere, but Stephano, he has so much of the... And just running by the army, not really giving a crap about uThermal's army right now, just running in everywhere. It's a low-tech army, and uThermal's shaking his head. He's like, I can't believe it. I felt like I played so good this game trying to come back into this, but Stephano, there's just too much of him right now, it looks like.
I feel like this game had 7 different stories, and I don't even really know how we got where we are, but I do know that the last few buy units are running very low on HP, and GG will be called. Stephano ties up this series after floating a lot of money in the early game, clearly struggling, trying to get 4 bases up and running. But those Corruptus men, if you ask me, those were the real MVP. They killed bases, they killed Metavex. Perhaps we'll see some more in Game 3.
Certainly will, but we'll get to find out what happens right after this break. Do stay tuned.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the third best of 3 of the day. We watched the PvT, it was pretty fun. We watched the PvP, it was alright. Then we hopped into the craziness that is not even just TVZ. It is Stephano against uThermal. Not quite ever dream levels of previous season, but a pretty wild game too. Where I never thought I would say it, but I really think the Corruptus won it, man.
I think they did, and it's so funny to see Stephano kind of... He has so many styles available to himself. Like, I've played against him quite a lot on the ladder, so I can speak a lot about his ZBT. But he really likes lurkers. He likes this kind of
I knew that you were going to say lurkers. I was about to interrupt you, and I was like, Ben, talk to me about the lurkers. But I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. But then you did it yourself.
Dude, he has made my life miserable because of his lurker play. So I'm really surprised he's not going for it at all. But anyhow, spawning over in the bottom right-hand side, that's the blue Terran. It is uThermal.
uThermal can laugh about it. In the top left side, we're looking at the main base of the man who's always in for some banter. It is Stephano.
It's that too coming from Stephano. You know, he means it in a way that was just like, you know, it was a sloppy, hectic game, but he also means it like he does mean to stab you a little bit, and he knows it.
Yeah. But that's okay because he doesn't care about how he sees himself, right?
No.
Like, oh, I'm not good at all. And it's like, you know, still literally one of the best Zerg players in Europe. You know, maybe not top 3, but a top 6, top 7 Zerg, Stephano definitely is. And he's like, well, Stephano is just really good at making everybody feel bad about themselves, you know?
That's his talent, actually, yes.
Yeah.
It makes you feel worthless.
He's like, you know, a super accomplished young man. I think he has a beautiful apartment somewhere in Paris that he bought a while ago of his earnings. And he's like, I just suck at life, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm 23. What have I really accomplished? And we're like, Stephano, you're living like everybody's dream life. You made hundreds and thousands of dollars, traveled around the world, won tournaments. He's like, no. Like, I feel like we're all just wasting our time. I'm like, come on, don't do this to us, Ilyas.
Yeah, if he thinks that about himself, what does he think of us as real DJs? You know, like, holy crap. Stefano's the best
and
friend
then you
ever
ask
around.
him that, and he's like, you know what I think about you, Kevin. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my
he'll
God.
be so honest. He'll be so honest.
But then at the same time, 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, what are you doing? Like at the end of October, you know? He's like, what about a little trip in the Netherlands? You want to hang out? I was like, so you could just insult me all weekend long, Stephano? Well, of course.
Actually, now thinking about it, you two do have a special relationship with that kind of stuff. I feel he insults you almost more than anybody, but it's because you take it so well.
He was actually very sweet to me during the DreamHack qualifiers.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, because we played a ladder game on the Romanticide, and he was like, why are you not in DreamHack? This doesn't make any sense. Go qualify. And then I almost got it, and then he gave me like a whole speech. He's like, stop with this weak attitude. You're going to do it on Sunday. I was like, no. I was like, this was my one run, Stephano. He's like, you're weak, Kevin. You can do better than that. And I was like,
He went full like a coach on you, you know?
yeah, no, he was very sweet. Just out of nowhere started DMing me. What a guy.
He also, when Risky wrote his thing as well, like one about his potentially his last game.
That was
he
a
went,
bit too real.
Yeah, he went full real. It's like, as a friend, I'll tell you how it is. Freaking Stephano, dude. He is wild.
Definitely a special one. All right, Ben, talk to us about this TVC. It seems like we've got a pretty standard opening so far. Stephano not doing anything of the out of the ordinary, and uThermal is going for a triple command center opening. But is there something that stands out for you so far?
I mean, 3 CCs, it's obviously like a greedy play, but it's not really going to die to anything, I feel. The main thing is Stephano going to scout this in time? Because so far, his Overlord, in fact, his Overlord scouting in general, he sends it in at a specific time, but he's going to find out about everything really, really late. So maybe he's just not worried about anything. He's constantly producing 3 queens at a time until he gets up to 6. So he's definitely safe against a lot of things, but now uThermal's kind of saying, you're safe against a lot of things, but what about if I just try and outgreed you and you don't scout it kind of play?
Yeah, Reaper did go very deep into the main base. Obviously, the Reaper was not very successful this game when it comes to sniping creep tumors, but a single Zergling did fall. So it wasn't all for nothing, but obviously the most important thing here is just to get a proper scout. Make sure you're not getting all-in early on by some weird Roach Link build. We know that Stephano doesn't do those very often, but you still have to confirm these things. Because, I mean, we almost forget about it because we're having such a good time. But this is a really important series for both these guys. 2-1 in Group D. So if you want to finish top 2, this is almost a must-win game for both of them.
It definitely is, definitely is. And I mean, they're like uThermal, he's at 2-1, and he's in 5th place, right? Because of the map score. So the fact that they've both kind of taken a chunk out of the other one, it being 1-1, it's a big deal. Stephano could solidify the fact that he'll be pretty highly placed in this group. I think they both still have to play against Serral, which is, you know, that's most likely going to end up with a loss just given how good Serral is. But,
well,
yeah.
uThermal played Serral, I believe.
Oh, he did already?
Yeah, it was, well, there's no shame in missing it because it was a very short series. But yeah, they did play.
Yes, I do recall it now. Serral, yeah, it kind of Hulk smashed a little bit. But, I mean, that kind of is the one series in the group where it's like, you know, you look at it and you're like, okay, I can afford a loss here, but where I can't afford a loss is these kind of games.
So many aliens are going to try to drive into the natural. A little bit of a YOLO player from uThermal, but the links around, I would say it's beautiful. Are there enough links to keep these aliens at bay, though? There's an Evo chamber that goes down. 1 drone tries to keep them away as well. How many drones are going to fall? 7 is good, but it was still a lot of aliens.
It was a lot of Hellions, but the Zergling micro there from Stephano, I love the fact that he kept repositioning and constantly surrounding, so these Hellions didn't get that good shot off that they really want. And was uThermal, or is uThermal going to be happy about that? I mean, 10 Hellions for 8 drones, realistically, you want more.
Yep, and the Liberator went down during all of that as well. Now, obviously, it's a triple command center opening, so uThermal does have a strong economy behind all of this. But I'm with you. I really think that you want to get way more there. We don't often see those kamikaze plays anymore. I do like them, but I think this game was a perfect example of why we don't see them very often anymore, because the Zerg players got so good in not just running their Zerglings in a straight line into the Hellions, losing all of them, but they're really good at spacing them out and buying time for the Queens to push out extra damage on the Hellions.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's very hard to get those kind of plays working these days, given how good Zerg players are getting. uThermal, by the way, it was a greedy opening by him with a 3cc, but he's going into 8 barracks play on the 3 bases that he has. So we're going to see him kind of opt for old faithful, if you will. This is something that he's been good at for a long, long time, where he just parade pushes across the map and never really gives in.
One thing that Stephano missed a little bit in the early game was starting his +1 melee. He started Carapace way before melee, and I think then he got a bit distracted by the Hellions cruising around trying to attack creep tumors and later the drive-by. So his +1 started quite a bit later. I just hope that he doesn't forget to start +2, right? Because once your upgrades are out of sync, I think it's really hard to always be on point in starting 2, unique upgrades that are completely offbeat of each other.
No, you're very much right. Like getting the +2 armor though over the +2 attack, that's more important for the Zerg. And it does look, Kevin, that Hydralisk Den, the infestation pit, this smells a lot like what I worry about when I play against him. But uThermal's doing that push where I think his last 3 barracks, they don't even have add-ons, which just goes to show you how committed he is to getting out a lot of Marines very quickly.
You see where these Marines right now from uThermal are, Ben, as they're getting picked up by this medevac? There is a ramp on the top side of those Marines, and then there is often the location where the Zerg players take their 4th base. The amount of times I've seen you stim up that ramp into 7 lurkers and be like, I don't know what it is, team. The lurkers are just really powerful right now. I'm like, yeah, Ben. How many times are we going to stim up a ramp, clump up all your buy units into 7 lurkers? You keep doing it. It's actually amazing. I love watching it.
I hope we have more Protosses today, Kevin, so I can make a lot of, comparisons between your play and their play. And I'll be having a good time doing it, Kevin.
That's fine, man. Like, I know that I'm pretty bad. I think you're very good. But you really have stimmed up this ramp way too many times into lurker sieges, and you're like, I don't know what it is, team. The lurkers, they're so powerful. I'm like, yeah, man, nothing has changed since yesterday. They're still pretty good in this structure.
Kevin, you're very good at commentating my games, all right? But this is not my game that we're watching right now, all right? We're watching uThermal against Stephano over here.
This is actually a proper attack with a couple of Zerglings, and Bailey's coming in from behind. uThermal's not ready for this. This was a beautiful engagement by Stephano, who once again has a lot of money in the bank, Ben. How impressive is it that he smashes this attack while floating 1,200 minerals?
I mean, that's one way of looking at it, Kevin. It's also maybe should have spent his money a little bit, but nice final positioning by uThermal here with those Marines, getting as much value as he can. But the thing is, this actually is very much... I know a lot of people are like, is this an all-in though, Ben? Like he's getting his 4th CC and stuff? This is super damn committed. This is all off one factory, the 8 barracks, the 3 extra naked ones. He has to kill Stephano or at least mortally wound him soon.
At least take out this base and maybe get a couple of drones as well. I'd love to see, I want to say a drop in the main, but it's actually kind of hard because there are 2 sport crawlers there, keeping the main base of Stephano safe as well. I think losing all the tanks, it really slows uThermal down a lot. And could give Stephano the time that he needs to get those lurkers out. And I mean, that's your territory, Ben. You can tell us all about how strong they are defensively.
Mate, like you talk about me stimming up this ramp, but look this is what happens, Kevin. This is TVZ these days, all right? We have lurkers on the field now, and Stephano's actually doing the right call here. So when you normally stim up this ramp, you normally kill a hatchery, But in my case, yes, I run into lurkers every day of the freaking week. But yeah, uThermal, he's actually done a good job of just kind of, this outpost of his. He takes down the base. He's also got a large army at home, but that is a lot of lings to worry about.
Yeah, it's a lot of lings, but there were so many Marines at home as well that I'm actually happy to see Stephano didn't just throw away all those units. Stephano is going to try to take a base near the double Rich Vespian Geyser, and that is obviously a terrifying idea for uThermal to ever see that base up and running. It looks good that uThermal got a hatchery, but I'm with you, Ben. I don't think it's good enough. I feel like he needed a bit more than what he got so far.
Yeah, because like so far he's playing the game against Lingbane and now Hydra, right? But now Stephano's got to the point where it's like, okay, he's got his magical unit out, which is the Lurker, and this is when the game gets really hard. You're playing on hard mode, and we also have to remember it's not as if uThermal aimed for this point in the game. He actually wanted to kill Stephano a few minutes ago, so he's definitely going to have to be a little bit crazy here to try and either keep a lead or get a lead out of this situation.
It's, in a weird way, it's the complete opposite of what was the case in Game 1. In Game 1, I love the fact that uThermal just had 80 Marines, right, with good upgrades against all those roaches and swarmers. It made perfect sense. Right now, being this heavy on the Marines while going up against Lurkers, that's not really where the Marines shine anymore. I truly love to see some Liberators with advanced ballistics or Ghost, but it's going to obviously be very hard for uThermal to get there after building 8 barracks and being so committed to his previous attacks.
And how different the creep spread in this game as well. I see uThermal's trying to like crack a slice through it and such, but Stephano's been very, very good about his creep spread, and this is where you start getting pulled apart a little bit, like trying to win fights on both sides. These Lurkers are marching in soup. What are they doing?
They were on move command, I think. I mean, the Lurk is not that useful. This was actually a bad attack by Stephano. It might still get the planetary in the end, but he even lost a lot of Banelings before they connected with the planetary fortress. uThermal, on the other hand, is going to be able to take out the hatchery on the top side of the map in a much easier manner. That was not very well done by Stephano.
That was also March of the Queens there, and yet again, where they just seemingly wander off creep, and in the last minute, Stephano just massively threw away any sort of lead that he had, and uThermal just waited patiently for him to come at him.
Yeah. I still think it's going to be hard to take out 7 Lurkers, which obviously do have both of their tier 3 upgrades. Lurker range is done, and the Adaptive Talents upgrade has finished up as well, but another hatchery is going to fall. Stephano is going to complement his army with a couple Vipers. I still don't hate Stephano's position, but he just made this game way more complicated than it had to be.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, he is reapplying the creep spread, which is good. His army, it's pretty well all round now, and this Lurker count just keeps on growing. Like, all your gas that normally goes into Banelings, he just throws it into extra Lurkers. I don't even think he needs to be this aggressive, like what he's doing here, shocking around the edges of the map. Just solidify your economy, mate. Like, you're on 75 drones versus 48 SCVs.
The 2 additional factories did finish up for uThermal, so he's not really heading into Liberators or Gulls. Instead, he's just going to try to get way more tanks out. Obviously, the Vipers are going to be a bit problematic, but maybe that's something that uThermal doesn't want to worry about now, but wants to worry about later. We'll see how he decides to deal with that in the end.
Yeah, I mean, we always have to remember how this game started off in this situation, right? Despite Stephano's really kind of sloppy attack, it did start off with uThermal kind of putting himself at a tech deficit. So can he really afford to get up to Ghost all of a sudden? This was a nice little catch by Stephano, though.
Well, Stephano also rallied 10 drones straight into their death and lost a hatchery, but at the same time, Stephano is going to be able to get a proper amount of damage. The main fight is happening, Parasitic Bomb and Blinding Clouds happening as well, but the Lurkers, will they be able to fire? All they need to do is really get just one more shot off. They were not revealed when the scan was too high, so those Lurkers got way more shots off than they had to.
Oh, and the Lurkers outside uThermal's base, and uThermal's smiling at this moment in time, which is a very weird reaction to getting this amount of Lurker damage against you, but he's also dealing quite a lot of damage to Stephano's economy. How
many Lurkers are left? We only have 3 Lurkers left at this point. Now, obviously, winning a fight on creep against Hydras is going to be very difficult. uThermal's at 33 SCVs. Stephano's at 47 drones. What is that? Why can't these two not have a normal game with each other?
I have no idea, and I really do blame Stephano for all of it, honestly. But uThermal, he's having to float over his natural orbital to take his 4th base. He already floated over his main at some point and lost it. And when you're running low on orbitals too, it actually means that you don't have that many scans for the Lurkers themselves.
There were just like 3 fights happening at once, and I was mostly looking at the economic damage that we're dealing, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, Lurkers blinding out Parasitic Bomb. And it felt that uThermal dropped a scan a bit too far towards the top side of the battle, right? Because there were 3 Lurkers that were just chilling there forever. Maybe if he would have been able to take those Lurkers out immediately, his bio wouldn't be that low on HP, and perhaps he could have even kept pushing.
Could have. It's just such a gnarly position to be in, and seeing all these units march into position, like, you can no longer beat that with what he has. And although he's going to go for it, nice parasitic, or rather nice abduct there, but look at the bio army. It just evaporated, Kev.
Yep, and at the same time, we have another circling counterattack happening on the bottom side of the map. uThermal already incredibly low on SCVs. Only 2 orbital commands to work with as well. This is obviously not damage that he can afford to take. We've got another lurker marching forward. Scan will go down, and at least uThermal keeps the orbital alive for now, but Stephano is richer, and Stephano has a more powerful army. I don't know what the Dutchman can do.
No, me neither. Like, it looks like I'm looking at him in the webcam, he's kind of like pulling himself and smiling at this kind of situation a lot. So I do wonder what he's thinking, but this is kind of the beginning of the end, and this is going to be a massive win for Stephano in this group, actually.
Yep, both players were 2-1 in this group heading into this best of 3. 2 wins, 1 loss. Stephano will now improve his record to 3-1 after he will take out the last few bio units that uThermal has. GG gets called.